What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another video here on the Basketball Bulletin. Today, we're going to talk about the latest news that came out as part of Mark Stein's Substack, and there's some juicy stuff in here. A lot of things related to some of the main names on the market. I'll also be hanging out with you guys, answering whatever questions you guys have. Trevor is on the move. He's in a hotel, and he may be joining us. I don't know if he will, but his Wi-Fi is really bad. But there's some really fun stuff here. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys are having an awesome Saturday and have a good weekend as well. The like goal for today's video is going to be 150 likes. If you see it below that, I'd appreciate if you could help us with that support. And also, 80% of viewers aren't subscribed, so if you're not subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. And what is up, everyone? I see you guys already in the chat. What's up? I'm going to read chats for a moment here, and then we'll transition over to talk about the news. So what do you think of JHS Cam first or second for Nick Richards? I mean, I'd like that for the Lakers side of things. I mean, for the most part, I think the first is kind of iffy, but they could use another young big. I'd take it, but I don't know that they would take it from us, though. That's the problem, right? But maybe. All right, what's up, Jello? I think I'm not going to give up a first for Nick. Yeah, that's what I said. I think it's kind of iffy. Well, thank you, Ellie. I appreciate it. Trade everyone on the Lakers. That would be interesting if they decided to do that. Trade me for one first. I'm available, Trev. All right, if you want to take one for the team, we'll definitely include you in it. We'll definitely do it. Second round pick, not first. Oh, okay. So 2 sec. I didn't see it said 2 seconds. Yeah, 2 seconds isn't that bad. I think that'd be good. What's up, Zed? No, Richards is not worth a first, as you said. Yeah, I think that's a little bit, I reserve judgment, though. I need to go see him some more tape and stuff. LeBron, okay? Hopefully so. All right, so let's get into this first bit from Mark Stein and talk about this. And it starts with Jimmy Butler, one of the main names out there right now and one of the big stars on the market. So there's a few things here that I think are really interesting. So we're going to kind of just hit this as quickly as possible. So there's rising belief league-wide that the Heat are indeed willing to trade Butler before the February 6th trade deadline, despite the great success they've enjoyed together over their past 5 seasons. More teams consulted than not believe that Butler is also eyeing serious new locales, for the first time. Seriously, it's a notion reinforced by the widespread belief that Butler is determined to bypass next year's salary and become a free agent as well. Also, I'm stuttering, my bad. Butler, for the record, has until June 29 to formally make that decision about his player option. And he mentions down here as well that there are several teams that have been talked about in relation to Jimmy Butler, which, by the way, Jimmy Butler did change his hair color. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. He mentions down here that, there have been several teams, but the only one that's truly like an option, it seems like, is Golden State. The Suns would be a fun one, but that requires some maneuvering with Bradley Beal. Do the Heat want Bradley Beal? They opted not to get him back when he was, a Washington Wizard as well. I think that is something that's kind of interesting. I don't think the Heat should take that contract. I don't know if Bradley Beal would, waive the no trade clause, but he does say here that Golden State, as things currently stand, are as the only team of the 4 most frequently mentioned are suitors for Butler and have interest. So the Warriors have been trying to find somebody to help them out there. I think that Butler would be a nice addition, and if they picked him up, I think that'd be huge for them. But yeah, I don't really know otherwise, and the way it relates to some of these other teams, I just don't think it'll happen. But if he's traded, I think that could be a good destination for him. It's also mentioned that the Heat would prefer to trade Butler for good assets. They don't want to just kind of dump him somewhere. Also, they're not too concerned about him threatening not to pick up his player option next year because only the Nets have flexibility next offseason. And it also mentions that since that's the case, he's going to need a sign and trade somewhere to even make anything happen. So he's in a weird spot. But it does seem very likely. This is the main thing. It seems very likely that Butler will wind up being traded by the deadline this year, which is actually pretty interesting. How things have kind of just gone bad over there in Miami for him, and he doesn't really want to be there, it appears. And he dyed his hair orange. And Butler had a comment on this in this post, what I thought was hilarious. He said, I could change my hair to whatever color I want to. And he said, there's no subliminals in my hair. Like, Come on, dude. You didn't just do this the next day after the Suns stuff came out. Wasn't there also a post of him wearing Suns color shoes? Like there's no way. I think he would prefer that, but I just don't think it's realistic unless you get Beal and Miami on board. Because again, Beal's got like another $100 million on his contract. So that's a really, really tricky situation. Pistons waived Paul Reed. Why? Yeah, that just came out. I didn't get to do much digging there, but they did. Shams did say that they were looking towards trying to have flexibility with their roster. So maybe could be a nice big man option for some other team. Although I will say I think the Pistons are better than they get credit for. But nonetheless, if he's for whatever reason not able to play for them, that's not the best vote of confidence that I have for him on other situations. But maybe for a team that's pretty desperate for a big, like the Lakers, maybe. So we'll see what happens. It's hard for the Lakers to make a trade with LeBron's status in question. Win now versus rebuild. I mean, it's hard to make a trade, period. with LeBron there, it's hard to make a trade too. They got so many things that are kind of working against them. Limited assets. They've only got a couple things that, they can really put out there on the market. They have contracts most teams don't really want. They need multiple things. Like I know a lot of people talk about a big man. They need multiple things. Like they could honestly, they'd be better off just flipping this entire roster, which they probably can't do. Like that's where they're at. And I don't mean like literally everybody, but all but like 3 or 4 guys. So yeah, but regardless, you're right. I mean, unless this is some sort of power move by him to kind of be like, yeah, I'm going to come back when you guys give me concrete evidence that you're going to make a change. I don't know what this is. Nobody knows what this is. There's speculations, but nobody truly knows right now. Ashley just asked me that same question. What's my guess? What's going on? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to speculate much. I do see all the speculation online, varying degrees, right? But I don't know. I'm hoping that it's just he's just taking time to get healthy. I think that if it was something crazy, I don't think Bronny would be out there playing. I think that matters. But regardless, I think for LeBron, it's a personal thing. You don't know what it is. Like it could be anything. It could truly be anything. So I'm hoping that it's just him trying to get healthy. And he's having a little bit of break here and he'll come back better than ever, or better than he had been prior this season, of course. Which is funny because he still gave 23, 8 and 9. He just didn't have the same impact, right? Is what it is. What's up? No cap, what's up? Hopefully I said that right. The new CBA rules suck. Yeah, that's the new CBA, like absolutely is going to hinder everything that most of these teams are going to try to do. It really, really, really sucks. And we've talked about it a lot on this channel, how there are just a lot of things that Trev texted me, said my speed still sucks. Going to try to join on my phone. Okay. Well, maybe we'll get Trev in here. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we've seen, where it's like, they can't aggregate salaries, and if you're above the second airport, you can't do X, Y, or Z, and it's just too much. It's just too much. I don't really like it at all. It's just too much. So there's also more in here, and we talked about Butler, but obviously everyone's kind of already been talking about Butler, Beal. We already kind of know that. There's something here that I think is kind of interesting, and that is how the Nuggets are going to try to improve the roster around Jokic. Now, regardless of how big of a fan you are of Jokic, one thing I'll say is that he's been phenomenal for them. He is doing everything he can. I saw a stat the other day that he's averaging the most, PRA, points, rebounds, assists, like where they accumulate all that stuff together. I think he was at 56, which is like the highest since the NBA merger. So like he is putting in work. And they're still, I don't know the last time. I don't know the record right now. Last time I checked, they were like the 8th seed. But they want to get better, and they're putting a lot of pressure on him. And Stein points out how they don't have a lot of options because they can't trade Murray or Gordon because they're not eligible until after the season because of when they sign their extensions, I guess. And then he mentions here, well, the only other option they truly have to try to make a trade and get better is to flip MPJ, which sounds kind of crazy, but he makes a parallel here to BI. Who do you think is better? I think that's an interesting question. They've got very different skill sets. who do you think is better, MPJ, BI? That's an interesting one. They make roughly the same amount of money, but he basically makes the argument here that, for one, maybe the ownership group doesn't want to trade MPJ due to some ties away from the team, like, playing at Missouri, things like Missouri, excuse me. I was gonna say Mississippi, but anyway, Missouri. But the thing is that with him, he's giving them 19 points, 7 rebounds, shooting 51%, 38% from three, but he makes $36 million. And again, I think that's what BI makes. And he has 2 seasons left at nearly $80 million total. So if they're going to try to improve the roster, they may have to flip him, because when you start looking at their roster sheet, or their cap sheet, excuse me, they don't have a lot of guys that make those mid-sized salaries. One thing, and this is something I've said several times on the channel, one thing that's happened is that the salaries have got. Oh, Trevor's joining us. We'll see if he can actually pop in here. Hold on.
Hey, Donnie. How's it going?
Doing good, man. What's up?
I'm glad I was able to jump in here. I was able to get this set up on my phone. Haven't done this before, actually, trying to stream using my phone like this. So hopefully the sound quality's not too echoey or anything like that. But
no, you sound fine. Yeah, you sound fine. Happy to have you. I was just telling the people that you've gone LeBron on us. We don't know when we're gonna see you again. I have no information. So
I am in not so sunny Florida right now. It's been raining, and so no, I'm not in some mystery location like LeBron James right now.
Oh man, so good to have you. We already talked about the Jimmy Butler piece. What do you think about that overall, and the way that's it's kind of looking like it's either Miami or bust is the kind of vibe I'm getting from it. I don't know if that's the same for you.
What, for Jimmy getting an extension?
I said Miami. The Warriors, excuse me. In terms of trade. Yeah. I think that's probably, it's like Warriors or bust is what it feels like.
Yeah, it really does, because look, I get why the Suns would want to do Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler. Yeah. I don't see why Miami would want to do that. It's crazy. He's got a no trade clause. It's a terrible contract. There's no way they'd want to do that. And then you look at the other options that are maybe out there. I mean, Houston, they've been telling everybody who will listen, shouting it from the mountaintops, that they do not want to break up their young core. So, I mean, at some point we have to just take it at face value, even if it is a little bit of trying to set the market. I think that's probably fairly accurate, though, that they don't want to break up they're playing well as is. And if I'm Houston, I wouldn't it's different if it's Giannis. If it's 35-year-old Jimmy Butler, I'm probably not going to do that. And then Dallas, it's so tough for Dallas to get there money-wise and to make that work. So it really does seem like it's the Warriors are his best shot to leave the Miami Heat via trade this season.
Yeah, and I think the only other one that would be pretty tangible would be the Suns. But again, the Beal thing is just crazy. Why would Miami do that? Why would they want that? He's got another couple years on his contract. And so it's interesting also where he said, they're not so concerned about Jimmy's, focus on opting out of the next contract, because they know the situation he'll be in anyway, with limited options and the fact that he would need a sign and trade. So they still, regardless of that, have a lot of leverage in this situation, it seems like. So it's just a weird overall place to be at for both of these, the team and the player.
Yeah, I mean, if Jimmy wants to say, oh, well, I need an extension, or otherwise I'm going to leave, Miami can just say, we're not worried about you leaving, because where are you going to go? There's one team basically with cap space, and that's Brooklyn. And while Jimmy has said in the past that he likes the Brooklyn Nets, I think he was just using that as leverage. Maybe he really does like the Nets, but it really doesn't matter, because the Nets don't like him. They shouldn't.
Yeah.
Please, Nets, don't do that. They don't need to go after Jimmy Butler. It makes no sense for them. I'm looking at the chat here. I've got it up on my laptop. And somebody said, flannelless Trev is the best Trev. Come on. You don't like the flannel? I like the flannels. Anyway, I've got actually a Dodgers t-shirt on right now. Lakers/Dodgers.
Yeah.
It's a no flannel. Take the under. Yeah, it was a pretty good chance. I tried to bring the flannel with me, and my wife said no. And my wife said
my
no.
God. So as part of this, they talk about, a little bit later in this post here from Stein, they say, or he talks about how the Warriors would improve the roster, and the only real option they have is basically MPJ. So I have two things for you. one, do you think they should trade him? And two, since there's a comparison to BI, they make similar money. Who do you think's better?
Between MPJ and BI or Jimmy Butler?
MPJ. We moved on from Butler.
Okay, so if it's Michael Porter Jr. that's on the move, I think I'd rather have Porter Jr. on this. And now you get better shot creation, certainly better ball handling opportunities here for Brandon Ingram, but they've already committed to Michael Porter Jr. and his ability to come off screens and come up firing as a movement shooter. I think that's more important to have around Jokic and around Jamal Murray. If you really needed a facilitator, then I would get it. And I think they could use one, but I think I'd rather have Michael Porter Jr. on this team. It wouldn't hurt to add Brandon Ingram's playmaking, but with the amount of times that you're going to throw the ball into the post, into Jokic, the amount of time that Jamal Murray is going to have the ball in his hands, Brandon Ingram is at his best with the ball in his hands, and he's, third in the pecking order at best on that Nuggets team to do that. So if I'm Denver, I think I would just stick with Michael Porter Jr., especially since the chemistry already works there. If there was some way to get an additional upgrade on top of that, to find another move to kind of put all the pieces together, maybe it would make sense. But I think personally, I would just stick with Michael Porter Jr. Unless they feel like they can get Brandon Ingram on a much cheaper contract, or that this is a way to just move off of salary permanently long-term, like get Brandon Ingram and then don't give him a new contract, and they decide that's going to clear up their books and open up some possibilities elsewhere, then maybe you can talk me into it if there's a salary reason to do it. But basketball-wise, I think I'm just sticking with MPJ if I'm the Nuggets.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best case to be. If it's between those two players specifically, do you think there's any possibility that they flip Porter Jr. for a couple more depth pieces? Because if they want to improve the roster, they can't trade the other two big salaries. He's the only option. They've got to either trade him or trade some lower salary guys and try to do something there.
Yeah, and that would be interesting. I mean, that would be kind of the same idea as, not to the same degree, but with the Lakers with Russell Westbrook. A few years ago, when the Lakers traded Russell Westbrook, the idea was we're going to take Russ and we're going to turn him into 2 or 3 rotation players, and they found 3 rotation players. Not that Porter Jr. is the anchor or the net negative that Russell Westbrook was with the Lakers, but you could have the same concept of, hey, the Nuggets don't have enough depth. What if you were able to turn him into 3 solid rotation players, and then where could you get those pieces for Michael Porter Jr.? I think it's an interesting concept. The question is, are you getting guys that are the quality that you need? If you could find some 3-and-D players, then maybe that's something that would make sense for Denver. But it would have to be just the right deal. You'd have to be getting back the right pieces, the right type of contracts. And I can't think of a team off the top of my head that would make a lot of sense as the team that would be looking to surrender, say, 2-3 players to stack up and go get Michael Porter Jr. I don't know necessarily who that would be. I'm sure there'd be some teams that would be interested in exploring it, but that would be potentially an interesting path. In fact, I would rather go down that path if I'm Denver than swapping out Michael Porter Jr. for Brandon Ingram. At least you're structurally changing your team if you're doing that. Otherwise, I don't think – I wouldn't do the Ingram thing. But if you could turn him into 2 maybe really good rotation players, okay, that's worth exploring for Denver.
Yeah, when you were about to come on, or right when you were coming on, which, by the way, we got 350 people here. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it for taking some time out of your afternoon here on Saturday. Make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, all that fun stuff. We're going to get to the chats also in a moment. But when you were about to come on, or when you were coming on, I was making the point that I've brought this up before in videos, but I just think that the salary numbers in the NBA are just too big, because it just gets really hard to turn these players for equal value into other players when they're on a big contract, $36, $40 million, things like that. It gets really hard to try to match all those salaries and then get back what you're looking for, depending on which side of the trade you're on. So for him, I don't know if, say you want 3 rotation pieces or 2 rotation pieces, maybe the other team looks at it and says, is that really worth it for us? I think they're in a weird spot, because they'd have to aggregate so many salaries unless you're giving assets or things like that. I just think that that's one of the things that maybe is overlooked with the CBA limiting how many of the mid-level, basically the mid-level economy has gotten squeezed out. There's not a lot of those guys. So you've either got a big contract or a small contract is how it looks right now. And then if you've got those not mid-level, but mid-sized contracts, those are valuable because they can be put together to go get a big one. But otherwise, it's kind of tricky. So it's just a weird situation, I think.
And I think the question is, how many teams would want to give that $36 million contract for this year. He's got another 38 next year, 40 the year after that
Yeah,
for
that's a
Michael
lot
Porter
of money.
Jr. I mean, I think there's some teams might be interested, but other teams would not. When you mentioned the kind of the middle class of NBA salaries getting squeezed here, one of the reasons for that is because of what I thought was a really cool new rule that they put in, which allows you to use the mid-level exception as an actual trade exception, so you can absorb salary with that on the trade market. But what happened was a bunch of teams, rather than spending their mid-level exception over the summer, they said, "Oh, no, let's hang on to it. We could use it as a trade exception during the season. Let's kick the can down the road, and then hey, if nothing comes up, nothing comes up." And then, oh shoot, we didn't get to spend it. It was a way for teams to not spend the money. And so that's where you had guys like Tyus Jones, right, winding up with the Phoenix Suns for a veteran. He's not a veteran minimum player, but he had to take it because nobody was spending their mid-level exceptions. So there's always consequences when they make these kinds of changes, and sometimes unforeseen. And this is one of them. I think you hit the nail on the head. The middle class of NBA contracts have definitely gotten squeezed under this new CBA.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case here. So let's get back to some of the chats here a little bit. Adam says every game matters. I guess we're answering next phase. We're 9-6 since D'Lo got benched, and every team we beat was under 500. We got blown out 4 times. That's brutal. That sounds really sad. You know, when you look at the Lakers net rating, it's so crazy that they still have a positive record because all their games are close wins or blowout losses. It's kind of insane what happens with the Lakers.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that you wonder, like, is the bottom about to fall out here? Because you look at the schedule ahead, it's really, really tough. And I hope not. I hope they find a way to win some games. But I was talking about this. I did a little video from the previous hotel that I was in. We switched hotels, but I did a little video there and talked a little bit about like the Lake. They haven't been a fun watch, and on top of that, they have not beaten a good team since October. Since the end of they haven't beaten a good team since October. Like they've got a lot to figure out there. Even the bad teams accidentally get a win or two over a good team, and they just have not been able to do that.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. And they've had a couple like rock fights, the overtime game or the game-winning dagger against Orlando. But they just haven't been able to win these games. Yeah, that game, ever since then, they've been spiraling. But thank you for our first super chat of the stream. Michael, he says, sick and tired of being sick and tired of the Lakers.
It's tough times right now. They need some wins so badly. Yeah. It's tough times right now. Yeah. Those of you saying that I wasn't on Lakers Nation last night, I was literally in the air during the Lakers game last night. That's why I wasn't on Lakers Nation, but I'm here when I can be.
You didn't miss anything. You might have been doing yourself a service, not watching the game.
I think my mental health actually improved.
Yeah, you might have did yourself a service. The way they started
Jeff
that
Spiegel
game,
covered for me, and he thought they think I'm doing it on purpose. That I'm picking games to miss strategically, knowing they're going to be bad. That I am that predictive of the future, and that I know which ones are going to be bad, and so I'm dodging those like Neo from the Matrix.
Logic here says Lakers, please don't trade the picks. I really think Rob is in a weird spot with this because should he, shouldn't he rebuild, stand pat, reinforce, whatever decision he makes. I also think that I hope that this isn't the case, but there's also a possibility that if he feels his seat is just a little bit warm, maybe he makes a trade that's in bad faith. You don't want that either. I think he's in a weird spot because he's got, people in his ear telling him to reinforce the roster like LeBron and co. And I think that he looks at this team and it's like, yeah, we need more stuff, but what's the asking price? Should I do it? And then also, if they're floundering like they kind of are now, should I do this? I don't really know. But I also feel that that's a little bit two-faced because if they were 7 games over 500 at the deadline, he might be, no, this seems fine. We don't need to make a trade, right? I don't know. Like, I feel like it's kind of weird. Like, I think he's in a weird spot, right? It's just, I don't know.
You can spin it either way, right?
Yeah.
Where, they're not good enough to save, or, they're struggling, so I better save them, versus, they're fine as is if they're winning games, or, hey, they're winning games. That shows us they've got something. Let's go add pieces. It all depends on what the mentality of the front office is. But I mean, look, I think it's pretty clear, and we've talked about this a bunch on Lakers Nation, but I think it's pretty clear that they're not good enough. They're not good enough to get where they want to go right now. So then the decision has to be made. Is this another season like last season where you just throw your hands up and say, oh well, we're not good enough, and and it's not worth surrendering future assets for, and there wasn't much available for them last season, or do you find something? Now, what I heard recently was that Rob Pelinka is working. He's working the market. He is doing everything he can to find trades. I just heard that 2 days ago, that Rob is trying to find something. He is not. It's not like he's just sitting in his office with his feet up on his desk or anything like that. The question is, are you going to find the right thing out there on the market? Like, I mean, Donnie, the news we got today from Mark Stein, which is what I had been surmising, was that even though there was an opposing general manager who said 2 seconds for Nikola Vucevic,
yeah, we were just
that's
about
what
to get
opposing teams value him at. The Bulls want a first, though. If you are, so salary-wise, to make JHS, D'Lo, and a first, would you do that for Vucevic?
No. No. I don't think so. You're right on. You're right on. I guess we'll just kind of make that segue though, and we'll read this article at this point.
Yep.
After failing to extract any draft compensation from OKC and it's Alex Caruso for Giddey swap in June, I just think that's so crazy. Chicago is said to be seeking a first-round pick to part with their center Nikola Vucevic, who has had a tremendous season offensively. A 2-time NBA All-Star is averaging 21, 10, and shooting a sizzling 58% from the field and 47% on threes. Do the Bulls have the resolve needed to hold out for a first-rounder? We're down to 54 days. So, yeah, like you said, there was a report that came out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it is, that said that Vucevic, other GMs or whatever are hearing that Vucevic is valued at about 2 second-round picks or something like that, like you were bringing up a second ago. But they clearly want a first-round pick. And I think that they're within their reason to
Sure.
say that, because look at the numbers. He's giving you 21, 10, 60, 47. I mean, there's going to be some regression there, but hopefully nothing insane, right? And he's played great in a market that needs centers. So I think that that's fair for them to do. Will they do it? I don't know. But like you mentioned here, can they hold out long enough to get that done? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'll be, and that's where, like the Chicago, they're going to be hoping that Lakers fans, that fans of the Pelicans fans, they badly needed a center. Fans of these other teams will be pressuring and saying, "Hey, get a deal done now," because the Bulls can say, "Well, if you want a deal now, then it's a first." And then maybe push comes to shove, February 5th or something like that. Then they go and they come back and they go, "Well, okay, we didn't get a first, so we'll go multiple seconds," right? But for a lot of teams right now, like especially the Lakers, they need something done sooner. And so the Chicago Bulls, like you said, they're well within their right because he's playing maybe career best basketball right now from Vucevic. So it's well within their right to ask for a first. I'm not surprised that they are at all.
Do you think they'll get one?
I think if they do, it'll be very protected.
A fake one.
First. And if I'm Chicago and that offer comes in, I'm taking it because I think regression is going to hit. He's not going to shoot this well forever, especially if he puts on a Lakers jersey. Then you know what's going to happen to his shooting percentages.
You're gonna look at his splits before and after the trade. He's gonna be at 58 and 50. He's gonna go to 40 and 32. That's after the trade.
We call that the Reggie Bullock.
Yeah. Oh, I was just about to say, go back to that season. That's exactly what happened with him and Muscala, right? Oh my God. All right, so we have a few more super chats. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. Scorpio Sky, what's up?
Welcome in,
really
Sky.
I'm not really sure, but.
Yeah,
thank you. That's him. Oh, what's up, man? I see your stuff is starting to make its way around your face. The people are starting to find you here.
That's right. That's right. Welcome in, Sky. Happy to have you here. Got to have you back on LN real soon here.
Yeah, for sure. The Lakers' biggest problem may just be LeBron and AD. More on my next LN appearance. Oh, okay. Do you think that's the case? That's their main issue right now? LeBron and AD? I think you could make a case. I think you could make arguments for either one, especially the way LeBron's been this season.
Sky, let's jump on a text and let's set something up to have you on for this week. But is the problem LeBron and AD? In a way, yes. in a way, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying these guys are problems. I think they're still two top 15 players at worst. And if we want to look at the problem really is the Lakers have not put a team structure around them. Right? They don't have a team that can help them win. They don't have the right pieces around them. That's the big problem. But if this was not LeBron James and not Anthony Davis, right? Not guys of their stature, and if the Lakers, if they had future draft capital, what would we be suggesting for this team right now? We'd be suggesting they tear it down, right? That would be the recommendation, would be to tear this thing down. But the problem is you can't trade LeBron James because he's LeBron James, and even if he's not playing up to his own standard, he's still bringing in tons and tons and tons of revenue, which certainly matters. And it's Anthony. You're not going to trade Anthony Davis without upsetting LeBron James. So it's a very tricky spot to be in. I don't think on the floor the problem is them. On the floor, they are part of the biggest problem with the Lakers, and that's their transition defense because they're two of the worst offenders when it comes to not getting back. But you're also not going anywhere without them, and they're giving you so much more in other areas of the game. But I do think if it wasn't LeBron and it wasn't AD, if this is BI and Julius Randle or something like that are still on the Lakers instead, we're saying, what are we doing here? Let's, burn it down, get some draft picks, and build something that can conceivably win because this group, it's hard to find a path for them to win right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I got a UPS guy out here looking at it like he's right on my window here. What is he doing? Anyway,
he's probably on the stream right now, and he's disagreeing with
yeah. He's right by my car. Look, he had a phone taking a picture of the package he has. I guess looked like he was taking a picture of my license plate. No,
he found you. He found you. He tracked you down.
I must have cut him off out there. He's like, I got you. Yeah, I think, like I said initially, I think you can make arguments. I do think you can make arguments. I don't know that biggest specifically. I think they were a part, like you said, of their biggest issue, which is the transition defense. But I think there are just a lot of, it's similar to the last couple seasons where it's like you can assign blame to a bunch of different parties. Like you can just say, you could just divvy it up. Here, this is for you. This is for you. This is for, I think they're a part of it. But like you said, I don't think this team is going anywhere unless these guys are a part of it. If you have any aspirations for anything. So I think that there's a little bit of, give and take with that. And I think that this roster just needs, I don't know that I said initially they probably could be better off just flipping this entire roster aside from a few guys. That's not reasonable. That's not really something they can do. So I think they should be looking at ways to improve on their margins and maybe get some of the guys in that could help this team out. And I think at some point, if some of these guys actually exist, I don't know if they do or not, but you can get, if you happen to somehow miraculously get healthy, you could get some additions by some of these guys coming in and sliding your team better and getting some play from them. JJ had a comment. I was going to do a video on this where he said basically that he doesn't think that AD fits great in a two big man lineup with Koloko or Hayes. And so he doesn't want to go to it basically. So I said initially that I thought that going to two bigs was one of the ways that they could help the lack of forward depth because you're obviously taking up that forward position by a big. And I think maybe with Wood, he'd be more okay with it. Because of the offensive space that you could have there. So I think that's one of the things too. But I just think all in all, the roster, there's a lot of redundancy. There's a lot of one-way guys. There's a lot. It's not a good roster. Like it doesn't matter what it is. And I think that's the main issue with this roster or this team in general is that the roster is poorly constructed.
It's the end result of years of losing in the margins when we look at the moves that they've made. Oh, this is a good one, Donnie. I like this question.
If Lonzo doesn't get traded, will he ask for a buyout? Does he have 1 year left on his deal?
This is his final year. He's on an expiring contract. And what's he at? About 20 million or so off the top of my head?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now.
So Lonzo, could he ask for a buyout? The short answer, 21.4 million. The short answer is yes, in that he is the type of player that would typically ask for a buyout. Veteran player, final year of his deal, and on a team that probably isn't going anywhere. Those are the three criteria that you need for a player to be a prime candidate for a buyout. But there's a few complicating factors here. Number one being the context of Lonzo Ball, right? The fact that he has not played for over 2 years of NBA basketball. If the Bulls are terrible, but he's playing, that's the biggest thing for him, is get on the court, show everybody he's healthy, because he's got a new contract to get next summer. If that's on the Bulls, if he's going to go get bought out and wind up somewhere that's going to make him the 14th man or something like that, that's not worth it. He needs to make sure he's on the court. That's the only way he's getting his next payday, is showing that he's on the floor and he can play and he can be his old self. Had a great lob, by the way, in last night's game to Zach LaVine. It was fantastic. It was great. It looked like old school Lonzo. It was great to see. But then the other factor with this, though, is under the new CBA, any team that's above the first-year apron can't sign a player off the buyout market who's making more than the mid-level exception, and that would include Lonzo Ball. So a decent chunk of the market, if he gets bought out, would be unavailable to him anyway. Like, he couldn't get bought out and go sign with the Lakers or the Nuggets or the Wolves or the Suns or any of those top teams that have spent money. So that's the other factor there. Now, under the new CBA, I think the buyout market is less of a thing because of that rule. There's just that many less teams that can actually do anything with a guy like Lonzo, who could even, if we want to talk Ben Simmons or whoever else it is, anybody that's above the mid-level exception, I think getting bought out is way less appealing because there's not as many landing spots anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that conceptually, like we talked a lot about, I think conceptually he'd be a nice player for a lot of teams. It just comes down to, is he healthy and is he able to be out there and, show what he can do? And is he able to play at that same level? We'll see what happens at that point.
Donnie, do you see what's going on right now? We've got over 500 people in here.
I was actually just about to say that. This is our biggest, this is only our third stream for the record.
We're on mind melt here.
Yeah, it's our biggest stream ever. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in and checking us out. We appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up as well. It does help the channel tremendously. But again, thank you so much for everyone hanging out here today. 500 people is pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, if you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button. You guys know we're bringing you all kinds of stuff around the NBA all the time. So again, appreciate it. Happy to see so many of you in here on a Saturday. How optimistic are you that Lonzo gets back to being Lonzo?
It's tricky. I don't know. Maybe 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had so many injuries and just a really bad one here where he's coming back from. Hopefully he can turn into, I don't know if he'll be what he was before, but 80% of that is still a really good NBA player.
That'd be great.
I think that is what you should be striving for as he gets a little bit older. I mean, he's 27, so it's not like he's super old, but I do think that's probably what you're striving for.
Yeah, man, you get 80% Lonzo. That'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic.
I think that'd be so good, especially because he's able to shoot now and all that stuff. I think he'd be awesome. Porter, Saric, Pickett for Kuzma, Valanciunas, Baldwin would work in terms of a trade. Depends if Washington sees value in Porter. So that's a Nuggets trade. They're getting
that's Nuggets and Wizards.
Okay.
The bottom line here is if you are Denver, you're flipping Porter Jr. for Kuzma, and I guess you're getting. I'm not going to worry too much about Baldwin or Pickett or Saric, but Porter Jr. turn him into Kuzma and Valanciunas. Does Denver need the backup big that badly? Because I do think. I mean, tell me where are you at on Kuzma, Donnie? Because I think it's a downgrade to go from Michael Porter Jr. to Kyle Kuzma, but Kuzma makes a lot less though too, so you'd have to factor that in.
Yeah. I think that's a good trade for the Wizards. They get a young piece or a young adjacent piece in Porter. I don't know where he's at, like 25 probably. But I think Kuz is worse.
26.
Yeah, I think Kuz is worse. But maybe if Valanciunas turns into something for them, sure. I mean, I think they just need more bench pieces. So I think that could be good for them. I don't know that I would do that though if I'm them. I think you may be able to find something better personally.
Yeah, I get it for the Wizards side, but again from Denver, it's kind of the same thing we talked about with Brandon Ingram, where you're getting a guy, Kyle Kuzma. Part of his value is that you can put the ball in his hands and let him create a little bit. He's not a great creator, but like Ingram is better, but it's kind of a similar thing. Right. And in terms of his spot up shooting, it's not great. Unless we were looking at this the other day, Donnie, unless he's in the corners. If he's in the corners, then you're good. If he's above the break, then you're not. So again, if I'm Denver, I'm just sticking with Porter Jr. here.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
rolling with that.
I agree with you.
And
This
by
one's
the way, there's a
interesting. Hmm?
oh, I was going to say there's a comment from YYC that the rumors are suggesting the Blazers are interested in Kuzma, which makes no sense. That's a little strange too, unless it's for one of their veteran, unless it's like a Jeremy Grant deal, which then why would Washington do it? But yeah, Blazers for Kuzma is a bit of a strange one too.
Yeah, definitely. For the record, J1, thank you. LA needs to target best combo of defensive block, box plus minus, and 3-point shooter. Who the heck even is that? I know- Who is that? Because that guy, for the record, that guy is not somebody the Lakers can go grab. Just for the record.
I'm going to give you a name because I think there's a few guys that I think of. They're all wings, but I think the one guy, and he has not played yet this season, unless he played like last night or something. I didn't see it. Matisse Thybulle, whose 3-point shot actually came along, and he's a good defensive wing, and I mean, that's what he came in out of college as, a great wing defender. That's one guy who could give you both, but you got to trade with Portland to get him.
Yeah, I would like Thybulle. Last time I checked, he was able to shoot a little bit, but I'm not sure about the volume. But yeah, I don't know who the best combo of defense. We have to look into that. So I'm sorry, but I just don't think that guy is somebody that's on like a mid-sized contract. They may be on 20 million, 25 million. Like, it's kind of hard to go get somebody like that. And then also, why would the team that has him want to give him up? So I think that's where it's a little bit tricky. Lonzo is now like what D Rose became, a decent rotation player. I guess that's a fair comparison. D Rose dealt with a lot of injuries. Yeah,
that's okay. I mean, Donnie, there was a point where we were worried. I mean, there were reports about Lonzo struggling just to walk upstairs. Like, it was a quality of life question. If you
remember the video of him sitting down, like, that's crazy.
Exactly. So if he can come back and be a decent rotation player, great. I think that's a big win. If he's a decent, I would not hold that against him at all, given what he went through with his knee.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have predictions for the Cup? I think we might have talked about this, but what's your prediction for the Cup?
So I picked Houston to win the whole thing. I thought that Houston's the kind of team that really goes all out in the NBA Cup. They've got OKC, obviously, tonight. That's going to be a big – I mean, that is going to be a defensive battle. If you like defense, that game's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I picked Houston to get through. I don't think they're better than OKC. I think in a 7-game series, OKC wins 8 times out of 10 against Houston. But in a 1-game, anything can happen thing, I had Houston going through and winning the whole thing. I have Houston against who did I have making it against Milwaukee? Houston beating Milwaukee in the final. That was my prediction.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going for. You see that?
Are you? I think they are they have the lowest odds right now. But
lowest odds. That could I kind of want to. I'm a little salty, I guess, from the Lakers standpoint still, but I think that I really like the way some of their guys are performing. Hunter has been awesome. I really like the build, actually. It feels like the roster build construction wise has changed from like, let's just get shooters out there to get more athletes, more 3-and-D guys out there around Trey. I really like that as well. So I think that their roster construction is good. I think it lends itself to Trey, and I think Trey's cold-blooded too. So I think he's going to go out there and try to put on a show. It's going to be a fun game for them against Milwaukee.
He certainly took it to the Knicks and then was rolling the dice on their logo center court. And I love Jalen Brunson's response to that too, where he's like, "We just need to beat him. That's how we stop him from doing that stuff."
Yeah, that's great.
But the Hawks have transitioned Trey into like a more of a traditional point guard type role from a scoring guard, and it's working out great because you've got guys like you said, like DeAndre Hunter's getting going, Bogdanovich, can get going on any given night. Zach Reese-O'Shea, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels. Now they have this army of wings to just send cutters from all over the place, and somehow they've got two. They are the Washington Wizards' only 2 wins of the season. We're both over the Atlanta Hawks. And yet the Hawks are this like kind of fun and threatening team. So it's funny the way that works out.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's really interesting. Let's read up here. Adrian here with the super chat. Hot take: NBA GMs are the worst in all major sports. A reminder that multiple teams wanted to trade 4+ first for Bridges. Idiotic. Only 4 good GMs right now.
Well, who is it? I think with NBA news like this, you always have to consider who is saying it and how do they benefit from saying that. So I wouldn't take it as gospel that 4 GMs. And remember, there's a wide range of values in first-round picks. A first can be worth a ton. You can have a first-round pick that's a fake first-round pick and really becomes second-round picks or something like that. So you have to remember that too. Were the 4 first just these terrible first-round picks that are first in name only, or were they actually really legit first-round picks like we think of? But I don't know. Do you think NBA teams are managed worse than any other pro sport? I can't speak on hockey, at least, because I don't know the ins and outs of that enough.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know, because basketball is like the only real major sport that I follow. I kind of go in and out a little bit, as you see with the hat, but I don't really care as much about it as I do basketball. So that's it. I have no idea.
So I think there's some teams that have certainly made mistakes in football, but football is such a different game. And that, I mean, you can be a bottom tier team, you get the right quarterback, and boom, you're up the next year. Baseball, some teams have absolutely been mismanaged. Fortunately, it's not the Dodgers. That was Jeff's comment, by the way. Can I go back to covering the Dodgers after he had to cover the Lakers last night? I think when you make mistakes in the NBA, though, it's very evident, and it just follows you. And I think it's true in all sports to a degree, but like it's very obvious when you mess up in the NBA. It's hard to hide it, because you only have 5 guys on the floor. It's so obvious when you mess up in the NBA. And that I think it magnifies the mistakes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Comment here, predictions. What team makes the first trade on December 15th? We've already got an answer for that. The trade is not official, and that is the one that came out for Thomas Bryant, right?
So that is actually, that will get done December 5th. That'll get done tomorrow.
Yeah.
What about aside from that, though?
I mean, there's a lot of smoke about Valanciunas, so maybe, I guess.
That's the biggest rumor out there right now, right? Is Valanciunas to the Lakers for?
Yeah.
Would you do that rumor that the whole like D'Lo plus something for Valanciunas plus something, like maybe a Brogdon, or I mean, it could be Kuzma.
No, I mean, I would. Kuzma is a nice piece to try to grab back, but I don't think I would do that.
Yeah. Oh, I think Joe makes an interesting point. Football doesn't have close to that many guaranteed contracts. Players underperforming to get cut. That's fair. It's easier to get out of your mistakes in football. That's a great point.
That's very true. In the NBA, you're kind of locked into it, especially now with this new CBA. My God. So we did also have another comment from J1. He says, or they say, perimeter defense plus rebounding areas for concern. Rui sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of failure to contribute. It's not like he's a volume 3-point shooter either. Rui is somebody that doesn't have a set role on this team. He doesn't have a set role on the offensive end. He doesn't have things on the defensive end specifically. They ask him to guard up sometimes. They try to put him on, like last night, they tried to put him on Randall. Mixed results there because Randall's kind of crafty and Rui wasn't able to really deal with it. Rui also doesn't have anything that's ran for him. But the only thing that I really can say is Rui, they want him to rebound the basketball, but that's just not a strength of his. I don't think he has the awareness for that or for more defensive responsibility either. So those are two things that, like, I understand what J1's saying and I agree. It's just Rui is not, you can't, I think we may have already peaked on what you can ask for those two things from Rui specifically.
Yeah. I think where I land with him, he's a good player. He's worth his contract, but he needs to be like your 6th or 7th best player, maybe even a guy coming off the bench, rather than a starter you're depending upon every single night to produce at a high level all over the court. I don't think that's really what he is. Not like put Rui on the Celtics, put Rui on the Nuggets, put Rui on the Warriors, put him on the Thunder. Is he starting for any of those teams? Probably not.
No. That's similar to the post that came out a couple days ago where they were like, yeah, you can't win if AR is your 3rd best player either, which is something that's interesting too. It's like the same idea. Like I think that's fair too. In terms of like this, you said you think he's worth his contract. I think he is to the Lakers, but if he's on another team, I don't think he's getting 18 million.
Sure.
In another role. Maybe he's a rotation player, 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever it is, but he's not getting 18 million. So he's more valuable to us and we need more from him. And so one thing that's kind of happened that you always will see is that there's a lot of like Lakers should trade for XYZ. Lakers should do this or that. But I would like to remind everybody that if we don't think somebody's performing well, we don't think they're good enough on this number, then why would another team do that without putting compensation with said player? And so it feels kind of bad to say you invested in somebody like Rui, and I think he's okay. I think he's a good player. It feels bad to say that, but then you're going to basically dump him alongside assets for somebody else. I think that's where it's weird.
Absolutely. I did see one question that came in here that was asking, is it time for the 76ers to tank? Has there been, because I haven't been
yes.
connected to everything here, has there been an update on Joel Embiid with that sinus fracture?
No. Actually, no. I saw nothing with that, but I did see, not that I saw anyway, but what I did see this morning, which is like adjacent, was a list of all the injuries he's had. Oh, wait. Hold on. We have some Shams news here. Hold on.
Oh, what we get?
Breaking news. Let's go ahead and put this on the screen here. So Shams. Golden State is in a serious pursuit of Brooklyn's Dennis Schroder, sources tell ESPN. Schroder has been one of the top lead guards, pushing the Nets to a surprise start, contending for a playoff berth. Sides are in deep conversations with Schroder eligible on Sunday.
That means it's happening.
Ooh.
That means it's happening.
This is going to happen.
So let's figure out what that is then. All right, let's do some math on the fly here, Donnie.
Okay, I'll let you do that because I suck at it.
Brooklyn is going to be trading away Dennis Schroder. He's going to go to the Warriors, $13 million. Remember, the Warriors are hard capped at the first apron, so they can't take on additional salary. So when we look at who would be leaving the Golden State Warriors, would have to imagine it's going to be that DeAnthony Melton contract, because that's why they'd even be in the market for Dennis Schroder, because DeAnthony Melton is out with that unfortunate torn ACL. But that may still not even be enough salary. Actually, that does work. That is just enough for the Warriors to stay under that first-year hard cap. A DeAnthony Melton for Dennis Schroder deal does work math-wise. Then the question becomes, though, what is Brooklyn getting? The rumor is they want a first-round pick for Dennis Schroder. And if they're doing the deal this early, I would have to imagine they're getting it. The question is how many protections are on it. And I actually think that if you're looking at the trade market from a buyer's perspective, what you want to see here is Dennis Schroder go for second-round picks, if you're looking at it from a buyer's perspective. So you can say, look, there's precedent here that these guys where teams are demanding a first, they're not really going for first. When we're talking about like Nikola Vucevic, players like that. But if Golden State is indeed giving up a first, maybe it's a protected first. Let's see what they've got. They have their own pick this year. They could give up. They could put protections on that. Yeah, they have all their own picks. They also have an extra second rounder coming in, a couple extra seconds coming from Atlanta. But they have all their own picks in the coming years here. So I would imagine, my guess would be that they did get it, that it's maybe a heavily protected first-round pick here for Dennis Schroder. And we'll see what all the details are when it officially comes through tomorrow. But that's a good get for Golden State. That's a good get for them.
Yeah, that's
Anthony Melton. He's been playing great, and that's a good acquisition for them if they can turn Melton into Schroder.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I like that. I like that a lot for them. So Schroder is putting up, I mean, these look like their career numbers. They've got to be pretty close. 18.5 points, 3 rebounds, 6.5 assists, while shooting 45% from the field and 39% from 3 on 6.5 attempts. He's been super good. These are basically the best numbers he's put up since his OKC and Atlanta days. So it's been a while. But Schroder is, I think that, do you think this is the time Schroder finally gets like a bigger contract, more commitment going forward in the NBA? Because I think he's been kind of trying to angle for that.
It's going to depend on what he does from here with Golden State. Because I don't think the Nets, if they're trading him right now, is because they don't believe that he's going to keep doing this forever. Same thing with Vucevic, right? Putting up career numbers. So I think that's ultimately what's going to happen here. It's going to be the Nets trying to cash in here on Schroder. If he continues to play well with the Warriors, then he'll probably get some decent money. Is he getting 4 years, $84 million like he infamously maybe turned down? Probably not. But could he get another deal similar to what he's getting, or maybe even a little bit bigger? Sure, he could. If he continues to produce, if the Warriors make a deep playoff run, he's a big part of that. Sure, definitely could.
Yeah, definitely. So do you think Golden State has anything else they're going to try to flip, or do you think that, I mean, they still have other things they could potentially do, like Wiggins, for example, is on a nice contract.
Yeah.
The Melton one was like they kind of just had to do something with that, right? So
yeah, they definitely need to replace him. I don't think they're done, because they still have to make a decision on Jonathan Kuminga. What is he? Is he their guy for the future, or do they need to turn him into something else? And that's where maybe they get into the mix. Maybe they call Brooklyn back and they talk about Cam Johnson or something like that. I don't think they've made that decision yet. So I think Schroder is right now. They need to replace D'Anthony Melton. Boom, here you go. You don't go from chasing Lauri Markkanen and Paul George over the summer to suddenly just shutting that off and being like, nah, never mind. We're not going to chase stars. I think they're still going to chase some big names. Whether or not they actually pull something off, we'll see. But obviously they're active and they're aggressive if they're getting this done right at the opening bell here of the NBA trade season.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a real chance that the Warriors still make another big trade and have a pretty different looking roster pretty soon here. So since this one is happening so early, it's interesting, I think, that it's happening like right here at the gate, December 15th, we're starting to see some trades. Do you think that's going to be the trend for this season, where we're going to get most of our stuff kind of trickling out around this time, early next month, as opposed to just at the deadline, literally?
I hope so, because this is pretty abnormal. I had people tagging me on Twitter or on X yesterday when the Thomas Bryant thing came out, and saying, "What, I thought you said there's no trades this time of year." It's not normal for trades to happen this time. It's not impossible. Trades can happen right now. They can happen obviously December 15th. You get all the guys who sign contracts, most of them anyway, become trade eligible. So it definitely can happen. It's just not the norm. Usually we see trades kind of trickle in mid-January, and then we get a lot of activity that first week of February. I think, though, you've got two things. You've got a number of teams that have not only a desire to tank, but they've got players to tank for. When we look at the guys that are coming up in this draft class, and you also have a hyper-competitive Western Conference where every team's trying to get an edge. So I think you've got motivation on both the buyers and sellers side. And so this was my hope coming in, and my hypothesis was that we would get maybe some more activity this year because of those two things happening at the same time. You've got motivation on both sides. And it seems like that's what we're getting right now with the Thomas Bryant move already, now Dennis Schroder move. Now, who knows? It could be this happens and then that's it. And we hear nothing else till the end of January. Or maybe we could also have, like, if you're Houston, if you are Memphis, if you're any of the teams in the West and you see Golden State do this, maybe this lights a fire under you and you say, uh-oh, they did that. We better go do something now. This could spark kind of an arms race here in the Western Conference. Now, not the same way that like a superstar acquisition would, but maybe this does get things going. Maybe this is just the first shot here in what's going to be a big back and forth battle between a bunch of teams in the West trying to add pieces. That would be really fun and really exciting. I hope we get that kind of a trade season here in the NBA.
Yeah, that could be pretty cool. We're going to answer a couple more and then get out of here. But it's pretty awesome that we got a breaking news moment on our third ever live stream. That was really cool. And it wasn't just like, we don't know the official it's done, but it's like literally this is about to happen. So that's pretty cool too.
Shams, usually you look for that verbiage, right? When Shams says they're in deep conversations, it's not done, but it's all but done, right? If Shams is putting it out there, they can't call it into the league or anything until tomorrow. But when sides are in deep, it happens, but it's rare for sides to get into deep conversations and have a deal just not go down.
Yeah, absolutely. So does this mean they can't get Jimmy now? No, I don't think that should mean anything, right? Because they still got that Wiggins piece. They could still go out and try to get him.
You could build off of Wiggins and Looney and still push enough contract. Now, the Melton piece probably would have been part of a Jimmy Butler trade. Yeah. So maybe
you have to put two players probably.
Right. But you could still build something. Andrew Wiggins is $26 million. Gary Payton II is $9 million. Kevon Looney is $8 million expiring. So you could still stack up enough salaries if you're Golden State. And if Miami is flexible enough to where you could get there. It's maybe not quite as easy without Melton's almost $13 million, but you could still do it.
Yeah, I think that if they could pull that off with Schroder, that's pretty insane. We talked a little bit about.
Would you do that? Let me ask you this: now that they got Schroder, or they're getting Schroder, right? It looks like it's heading that way. Would Schroder and Jimmy make Golden State if they turned Wiggins? Let's say it's Wiggins, Kuminga, Looney, whatever contracts you need, into Jimmy Butler. Would they be the favorites to come out of the West?
It's a lot of depth to give up. I don't know that I like
Yeah.
that a ton, but at the same time, I think that would push them right. I don't know if they'd be the favorites because I got to put some respect with OKC and stuff like that, but I
Exactly.
think they'd be like right there. I think that if they played them, I think that series could go 7 and it's winner take all. I think they're a team that would be of an equivalent level, I guess, but OKC is still my favorite.
Yeah, I'd land in the same spot. I think OKC would still be the favorite, but Golden State would be right there, like right there. Especially if you had playoff Jimmy Butler. Whew, that could be something.
Yeah, and I think it's a tricky thing because I think there are a lot of teams in the Western Conference that are just like right there, where it's like I'm not right there from being like a championship thing, but like they're all like kind of just like, and this is why the West is so congested. I feel like they all could go 7 and winner take all. Like it could just be, it is what it is. But I think this is something that could separate them from the pack, and I think that's huge for the Warriors. We were talking about how I asked you if you thought this was, a trend that we would see where trades are coming a little bit sooner. J1 asked, do you think this is due to the new CBA? I think probably so. What do you think?
I mean, it's a factor in all of this. I think it's more the dynamic of what's where the league is at. There's not one dominant team that everybody just expects to win the title. There's a bunch of teams that say they're in the mix. There's players in the draft that teams want very, very badly, and they want to bottom out in order to give themselves the best shot at those guys. I think that's part of it. The new CBA is part of it too, though, in terms of limiting spending power. Teams are going, okay, well, if I can't get that guy in free agency anymore, I'd better go get the pieces we need on the trade market.
Yeah, I agree with you. Last chat of the day. Trev doesn't realize that no matter the channel he's on or the title of the video, it's still a Lakers Nation chat.
Hey, Lakers fans, we are legion. We're everywhere. No matter what, we're always going to have, even on front office show, we've always got Lakers fans coming in there. But that's going to be the same on any NBA channel, anywhere. There's always going to be plenty of Lakers fans jumping in. And that's okay. We love y'all.
Yep. On that note, I want to say thank everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. This was a ton of fun. Also super fun that we got that breaking news from Shams and also our biggest stream ever. So again, make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up. Thank you for everyone that hung out with us here for the past hour. And also huge round of applause for Trev, wherever he's at in some secret bunker over here tuning in as well, because we weren't sure we were going to get him. Like I said, we don't know where he's at, what he's up to, but thanks for also hanging out today, Trev.
Wherever I'm at, that must be where LeBron is too, I guess. Thanks everybody for joining us. We really do appreciate y'all.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you, and we'll see you all next time.